everybody for coming tonight for our high school parent night. We're excited to get you on the campus. We are going to start in here and just do a couple of quick things, and then we're going to be splitting into two groups. We're staying in here for the whole thing. Okay.
If we can fit, yeah.
So we're just going to stay in here.
We're just going to
so
squeeze if you're up for it, since
cozy.
it seems like we can all fit.
Perfect. So I just wanted to start with a reading we usually do. My name is Melanie Cook. I'm the director. We have a lot of staff here that I'll introduce in just a sec. We're gonna start with this. So it says it's about survival skills, and I love survival. I'm big into survival, so I'm like, this is perfect. The new survival skills: effective communication, curiosity, and critical thinking skills are no longer skills that only the elites in society must muster. They're essential survival skills for all of us. So I want you to think for a second about ways that you're seeing your kids learn effective communication, curiosity, and critical thinking skills. What have you seen coming home? What have you heard about? And when you've got something, give me a thumbs up. High school and Charlie doesn't talk to them.
Our son doesn't talk to us.
Has nothing to do with you.
Alright, so turn to somebody next to you and share with them what you are thinking of, or what it is that you're looking for. How about that? Okay? In these areas: effective communication, curiosity, and critical thinking.
Hi.
Introduce yourself.
That's something funny. The whole room on communication network. That gonna work?
Should be open. I'm gonna go out the back window.
Who wants to share out what their partner said? Or who wants to share out what they heard? Anybody want to share out?
I'll share out what your parent had.
Awesome.
So we were talking about the kids having to communicate with each other outside of school to get collaborative projects done, and also the externship project where the kids go around the community and communicating with other adults to learn their life skills.
Effective communication, curiosity, critical thinking. So we're gonna, absolutely. So as we're going through our presentation today, we keep those two things in mind, and at the end we can check in about how we are seeing that happening in our high school, okay? I want to introduce our the faculty that are here. We have Michelle, she's our Spanish teacher. Everybody say hi, Michelle. We have Laura, who is our full-time student support and PE teacher. Yeah. Mara, our dean of students and reigning queen of the high school. And Eric Martin, our athletics director. Nilo Bill, he is our local expert. Greg is our marketing director. Anybody?
Yeah, Nate just.
Nate, oh, there he is. Nate is our instructional guide from kindergarten through high school. Awesome. So these guys are going to be running the show tonight and filling you in about the whole high school program and hopefully answering all the questions that you have. I want to start by, just making sure that everybody got an email that I sent out today about our science teacher and our staffing and things like that. We are working on that to make sure that we have the best possible program for our kids. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to talk to you about that later. We did have a candidate come in today and work with our 11th and 12th graders, and she was fantastic. So we're moving in the right direction, but we're going to look for good choices for our students to make sure they have a great experience. So Any questions you have about that, let me know. And with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Mara. Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
Just so you know, I am gonna use this, but if you're like your son, you'll stay right there. Are you guys comfortable standing over there? You good? Yeah, okay. Thanks for coming. We didn't have a campus when we had back to school nights for everyone else, and so we felt like it was time that we get everyone on campus and talk about our program. We have a lot of new faces here. We want to answer a bunch of questions that we're getting from you. Thank you for each of you who keep reaching out to me and giving feedback. That's the only way we can continue to improve, so keep it coming. Our agenda today is to just talk about how T is preparing your child for college or career or life, whatever comes after T. We want to go over our academic program with you and talk about how our grading works. Nate's going to share some information about that. We have Eric here to share about our awesome and developing athletics program we have. And we have some virtual and in real life guest speakers to share about their experiences as well. Our learning target is I can identify how T is preparing my child for college, career, and life, as well as I can explain the academic program at T. Excellent. All right, we get the question all the time about why T stands apart from other schools. Why should we keep our kids here? Why should we choose to take a risk on a new up-and-coming school? We appreciate that you are taking that risk. I know it can feel scary when you're thinking about your child's future. So I just wanted to share that we honor that and we appreciate it. But we are also really excited about the program we're developing here. And the big difference that I can share is that our kids are actually making a big impact on the world. They're working with real world experts, they're going out into the field, they're learning how to communicate, they're learning how to use their critical thinking skills, they're solving real world problems, and they're identifying problems that they want to address too. And that's something that you don't see in a lot of schools. It's not a stand and deliver all the time like we're doing today. It's about getting your kids up and active and moving and working with the people who know what they're talking about. Sometimes that's us as teachers, but more often than not, they need to go out into the industry and learn what it means to have a business and learn what it means to be responsible citizens of the world. We have students tackling a wide range of problems right now. A couple of the ones I wanted to share that are exciting is our seniors every year plan a spring expedition, or last year it was in the fall, but they do nuts to bolts the entire expedition. That includes establishing guiding questions, learning targets, to meeting experts, reaching out to experts, planning the entire field work. And our seniors, one of which is here, Logan, thanks for being here. They've identified that there's this issue with 18 to 25-year-olds not voting. And they've also identified that it's not a US problem. It's actually a problem you see in other countries. So in March, we're traveling to the UK to talk to experts about why it is that people vote or don't vote in that demographic, what makes it different, and you should continue to ask them if you have a senior or a junior what that's shaping out to be. It's been a lengthy process, right? With a lot of ideas. I think we've identified like 18 different problems they wanted to address, and we've landed on this one, and we're really excited. Our 9th and 10th graders are about to head to Florida in a couple of weeks to help with the hurricane recovery and look at what programs are available. We have a group headed to Monterey to look at marine biology with Nate. We have a group headed to Iceland. We are fortunate enough that Nilo did a lot of work there and is an expert in his own right. And so he's leading that charge to look at geothermal energy in a country that has improved renewable energy in a way that we haven't in the United States yet. So see what we can do to bring that back here. We also take advantage of opportunities to contribute to problems in our own community. So our students went to the Tahoe Economic Summit and met with about 150 business leaders from North and South Lake to talk about issues like workforce housing and what are we going to do in order to have a workforce that is educated and able to make it so we can live in this amazing area. With that, I wanted to invite Logan to share just his experience about tea for a second, if you would.
Stand up.
I mean, that would be nice if you feel like you have the energy in you.
I don't know where to face. Hi everyone.
You can talk to your mom if that
My mom. I'm a senior. These are my friends and teachers. I've been going to T for 3 years now. This is my 3rd year. And I wanted to talk about a couple things and kind of some questions that a lot of people have about T, like how will this prepare my kid for the real world or college versus other kids. And honestly, like I can't give you factual evidence that I will be doing great because I don't know, because it's the future. But I do feel that going to this school has helped me grow a lot as a person, both academically and personally. What's the word? I don't know. That's a good word. But I was
emotionally.
Yeah, emotionally,
Yeah.
mentally, physically,
Athletically.
I've had a lot of flexibility with my schooling throughout my life. I've been in very different situations. I went to public school till I was 3rd grade. I was homeschooled. With Christine's kids, Jacob and Nicholas. And there I kind of had the freedom to choose the route I wanted to go down, and I've been used to change since 3rd grade. I've had like something different every single year since 3rd grade. And when I was little and homeschooled, I stopped in 8th grade. It kind of just flew over my head, and I didn't really care as long as I somewhat liked what I was doing. It was okay with me. And then freshman year, I decided I wanted to go back to school, but I didn't want to go back to like regular public schools, so I enrolled in a charter school, and I got hit really, really hard because I was so used to learning my own way and having the ability to dive into what I wanted to dive into and learn the way I wanted to learn. And it's not like it was all handed to me, like I had to figure it out a little bit, but I was a little kid. So it was very, very hard. I don't do good with busy work. I don't do good with just here's a couple papers, do it, return it when you get back. And there was a lot of independent study, which was really hard for me. So the teachers there did not like me. I did not like my teachers. There's a lot of interesting stories. I ended up, there was one teacher that I want to say bullied me, but I don't know, it was a weird thing. And it was a situation that I'd never really been in, because when I wanted something to change, it was a lot easier for me to change because I had the ability to do that when I was homeschooled. At least somewhat, if my mom let me. And it was really, really hard for me because there, it's just such a strict path. It's you do this, and you do it by this time, you do it perfectly, and if you don't, you fail, we kick you out of school, you're not allowed to go ski, you're not allowed to do this, because I was skiing a lot and traveling, and it was horrible. So finally, it was like the first good decision I've made in a while for school, or not good decision, but like good fit for me. I came here, and it was very different 3 years ago, very, very different, but which is good. And over the years, we've gone on all sorts of expeditions. We get to go all over the world, all this crazy stuff. And I've learned several things like perseverance. Like, you don't get to go to all these cool places at a normal school. But it's not just that. People that go to these normal schools think, oh, we're just going on vacation. But we're not. Like, they've never been deathly sick in the middle of the desert, like 2 hours away from civilization. Mara saved my life. They've never had to drink puddle water. What's another good one?
Was that before you got deadly sick?
We need to talk, Mara.
The natural vitamins of the ground and all the like fermented leaves from the fall were really good for like my immune system. But they don't get to experience those things, and that trip was actually one of my favorite, I don't know, I got really sick, I was not happy, but it was one of the most I hate this word so much. It was one of the most impactful trips and experiences of my life. We got to go to southern Utah and we got to go to Arizona, and we stayed on a Native American reservation with these 3 really, really nice Native American ladies. How old was their mom? She was like
94.
Yeah, 2 were sisters, and they're taking care of their mother who was like 94, and they were still like herding sheep 10 miles a day. They were near
It's just
town.
harder than it
Yeah.
sounds.
It's really hard. And they like had to get all their own resources. The nearest town was 2 hours away, and we got to dive deep into the struggle that they've had in that particular area. There's a long history. I could talk for a very, very long time about it, and we also got to go to Bears Ears and see all the ancient Puebloan, I've had a long day today, ruins, and you don't get that at a normal school. So one of my favorite things about this school is change, and we've been hearing it a lot lately, especially with some of the seniors, that like even today, because of some of you have heard about Brian, he's not here anymore. Some of them are very, very sick of change. Thankfully, I'm used to it a little bit, but I kind of cherish it in a way because the real world is constant change. You all know that. You're working adults, you have children and homes and this and that. Everything's always changing, always, and it's not always going to happen the way you want it to. So the good thing about that at this school is they kind of let us, I wouldn't say free roam, but if we have a problem, one of like the favorite things that Mara says is, if I come and complain to her, which I do a lot, like a lot, she's like, okay, how are you gonna fix it? And I'm like, okay, well, I thought you were gonna do that for me, but they let us have the ability to problem solve. They teach us how to problem solve. We make a lot of mistakes, but that's probably one of the most pivotal things you can learn in life is making mistakes and learning how to adapt to change and making the most of it. So I think that's one thing personally for me that's gonna help me a lot throughout my college years, my adult life, all that fun stuff. Because you don't get that at other schools. They are on the same kind of structure and track from kindergarten to 12th grade, senior year. So that's one of my favorite things. Did I hit good points?
Yes.
Do you have any questions? Are we doing question and answer? I like questions.
Do you want to?
Do you guys have any questions?
So Logan, does all this change, everything that you have going on, do you feel that it's helping you prepare for those next steps of life without anxiety or concern? Do you feel that it gives you the confidence to go forward?
99.9% just because I'm a little bit of an anxious person in general, but it's hard for me to imagine me growing up completely in a public school and never learning these skills to which I have now, like throughout my years here at this school, and not having as much of a good grip on it and knowing what to do and when and persevere and get used to the change. So I do think it will 100% benefit me and everyone at the school, all the kids, even if they still hate the change. They know how to adapt to it, they know how to problem solve it. We all do, so I do think it'll help me a lot.
Thank you.
If there's one thing you could change to improve T, what would it be?
That's a I get that question like every day and we always answer it. I'm trying to think, honestly, because there have been several things that I've wanted to change, and we have changed them. Thanks to the support of our teachers and everything. I can't honestly think of something right now. If someone wants to do my homework that I'm slightly behind in, or the pipes in the bathroom did not freeze. That's one. But honestly, everything else, like, that's not really a question I think about at this time because I know if something occurs, then we'll get going fixing it, I guess. Yes.
So, being a senior, school's coming to an end pretty soon. Do you know what you want to do next?
I have.
There's issues.
You opened it up for questions.
I have a couple ideas. Honestly, I think I'm going to move down to Reno next year and take classes at TMCC and work. I got a job at the Ritz last year, and honestly, there's several things I actually learned from this school that you would believe are completely irrelevant that helped me a lot through, like, it's a pretty, like, what's the word, prestigious job, and I was the only 17-year-old there, like, brace face, and they liked me, so that's good. But yeah, work, save up some money, and then hoping to transfer to UNR, and if not, just go straight to UNR, and study business, and I've been doing, like, design, and kind of, like, clothing stuff, and I'm just kind of, like, wide open to the whole design area and going into several different things. So either that, or move down to San Francisco and go to an art school. I might, like, take a year. I don't really know yet. My parents have been really supportive, and they're just like, okay, you can do what you want to do, but still pushing for me to do good things and not live with them for the rest of my life.
What are you thinking about for your individual senior expedition?
That's the one that I do my own thing. So I've been affiliated with this ski company for a while. It's called Tomahawk. And I, like, make my own clothes every once in a while. Like, we have a screen printer here, which we need to get new screens for, by the way, because they're all broken, and I didn't do it.
Figure it out.
And I've been doing a lot of that. Like, when I was in 2nd grade, I have a folder from, like, when I was in 2nd grade somewhere in the barn of all these sketches of, like, ski clothes and, like, shoes and all this random stuff that I wanted to make when I was older. So thankfully, I've had several really good internships over the years, and learned a little bit about that, and I started skiing for this company, and then the owner's just super cool and kind of, like, took me and my other friend who skis for them under his wing, and we help him out a lot. He's kind of difficult to work with because he's very, like, does what he wants when he wants, but that's why he's been so successful. And do my independent senior study, is that what it's called? Independent? Yeah, that, and work with him, and I might design my own, like, little side line of clothing. That's, like, it's Tomahawk, but it's, like, Logan stuff, because they're, like, a ski brand, and he wants to go more into, like a streetwear kind of thing. So I'm gonna kind of take that over, and I'm also helping out with, like, the website, which my dad's teaching me hopefully soon stuff to do for that, and Greg if he wants to. And just, like, social media and, like, all the aspects of running a clothing brand, not just designing the clothes, but, like, how it goes from, like, an idea to cut and sew to, like, getting samples, and then dealing with the manufacturers in China and, like, this and that, and kind of all of that. So just fully diving deep into that. That's kind of what I'm gonna do. So hopefully I'll have clothes that you guys can buy for, like, my final project.
To pay for that.
Save up your money.
circumstance.
Yeah.
I'll give you my size.
Only all sizes.
Thank you, Logan.
Thank you.
I think Logan, kids say it better than we do a lot of times. It's kind of funny having parent nights because it's adults talking to adults about kids, and often I feel like the kids are the ones that are experiencing it. We're here for them. You're here for them. So thanks, Logan, for pitching in there. To continue with what he's talking about, we are spending, this is our numbers from last year as a school, that we are spending an incredible amount of time in the field every year. And we are constantly balancing how much real world experiences can we do while also making sure we're checking the boxes so that your kids can go to whatever college they decide to go to, which I know is a constant question in your mind. How do we do this? How do we make sure that this school that looks totally different from other schools still meets my kids' needs and prepares them for the academic world as well as for life? And so we do that by meeting with our experts, by working with organizations, by helping kids learn how to problem solve in the classroom and outside of the classroom, while ensuring that we still have the rigorous academics that Nate's going to speak to. I don't know how many of you have checked this out. If you were at the parent forum, we shared it then as well. But these are 3 of the Common App questions that they ask students to write about. You can't see, it's talking about the lessons you take from obstacles we have encountered, and what challenges have you experienced and how has that changed and shaped your life. We just heard that is like an incredible opportunity for our kids. When our kids sat down to write these Common App applications, they're not trying to come up with one, they're trying to pick one out of many. Another one's looking at problem solving and what problems have you faced and how can you solve them. Oftentimes kids sit down to write and answer that question at other schools and they're thinking about, well, my parents didn't like let me do this thing and I worked it, I made it happen. Our kids are solving real problems. They're working with people in our community, they're working with people less fortunate than they are. They're learning that they are members of this world and the world is only as good as we make it. And then the last one is looking at what's your personal growth? How have you grown? And with constructive adversity in the classroom and outside of the classroom, we're providing opportunities for our students to learn and grow on a daily basis. So our classes, from an academic standpoint, are similar in some ways. We're making sure that they're rigorous. We're making sure that they can check all of the boxes they need to when they apply to college and that they can be successful once they get there. But we're also trying to get kids to the point where they can say, yeah, I can go to my first choice school, but I also don't have to because here are these other opportunities. I've met these experts in the world and I'm ready to start working now and I'm ready to make a change now. And we want to leave that option open to our kids so that any doors will open for them. That's what sets our kids apart when they apply. They get to the short stack because they have experiences that other kids don't have. They have the academics to back it up. They have the extracurriculars. They have the awesome athletic program that Eric presents. But they also have things beyond just that they're meeting with me for student council. They're actually having those experiences that they can write about in their essays. Our virtual person is Ken, our board chair. And Ken is a proud parent of an alumni from T. His son Mitchell graduated last year. And this is actually from the program, so apologies if you've heard it already. But it's a great story about just his experience with his kid at T as the first graduating class. And if I am better than Taylor, I'll make it work without you, but stand by. Oh no! Oh, you can't make it big. You're gonna do it.
There was a graphic up on the presentation earlier. There was the big stack and the short stack. And the question I get a lot is about T and the value of the T education. And in all honesty, my son's 5 years at T were not always smooth sailing. But he came out the other side with plans that he made for himself and with the confidence that he could make those plans a reality. And with a lot more concern for other people and for the environment. He was a good student at T, but he wasn't the best. He had good standardized test scores, but they weren't perfect. There were quite a number of people with the same statistics as him that got rejected from the university he applied to as his first choice, but he got accepted to the honors program and got an honors scholarship. Why I think that is, what's my explanation for that, is that my son and all of his classmates had stories to tell. They had real world experiences that made them stand apart from the pack. We had 2 of his classmates that are in film school, one in cinematography and the other in screenwriting, but we don't have a film program at T, so what's up with that? These kids have their stories to tell, and they had the confidence to develop their own skills and to go make products that made them stand out in their applications. So, at T, you're not just allowed to follow your passions, you're actually required to follow your passions, because seniors have to develop their own independent study projects. My son was to go to Guatemala and work with Engineers Without Borders
what it is that makes our academic program beefy enough that your kids can excel and can choose what comes next from that standpoint. I just wanted to share a little bit about the special sauce that we also have at T, and thank you all for putting your faith in us as a new school. When we're done, we're going to take a walk down to the new building. They've left the lights on so that you can be some of the first people who have seen inside of what is becoming a really exciting campus, and we're gaining a lot of traction, and thanks to a lot of you for participating in fundraising and in your contributions to make this campus what it is. I can say it feels incredibly different from being just a little bit over that way last year to being here, whether our toilets still freeze or not. It is still the coldest place in America most times, but it's also beautiful, and we get to tromp in the woods and measure trees and have fun activities on this beautiful campus. So stay tuned for a sneak peek later on. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Nate, who's going to talk about academics.
Thanks, Mara.
All right. So this is the sort of box checking portion of the program. This is the part where we try and the rubber meets the road. We have all those experiences. We want to create all those things. We want to give kids like Logan and Mitchell those experiences so that they can have the stories to tell in the short stack. And we also need all the other parts that go on the application, right? We need to ensure that everything that we're doing is in a line and that other people can look at it and say, oh, we know what you're doing. That makes sense, right? This is not something new or random. And so we have academic programming, we have all the courses laid out. I have copies of our course program. They also were sent out in the parent square if you want to see the specific descriptions. And that's something that we do internally, and that's really great. But in order to get that recognized, we submit all those courses to the UC A to G system. So that's required if you want to apply to a University of California school system. But it also just gives us that external check on all of the courses. We have to submit every course as part of that. And so all of our courses that you see here and that your kids are taking are approved in that. And then we submit updates to that every year as we change them. And that's really important because that indicates that the courses, we've already aligned them to national standards, but now we're submitting it to another party to say, okay, that's a submission, that's done. And that's something that's recognized even outside of the UC system. So that gives our courses the validity. Grades are always created internally by schools. You guys all went to school, somebody created your grades, they put that on a transcript, they send it out to colleges. Colleges have to sort of compare all these schools and kind of figure it out. And if you're a new school and you're submitting for the first time, they have to kind of build this profile and sort of understand who you are as a school. And we're an emerging school. Our profile is emerging. So we have all these things, our boxes are checked, and now we're starting to put some students out into the world too, and that's all helps bolster our profile so that we become known for some of these schools that kids are applying to with repetition. There's also a packet over there of frequently asked questions from Katie Watts, our college counselor, and Katie's here on campus on Fridays. She meets with all the students. I would also urge anyone with specific college questions, reach out to Katie. She's really big on, answering those things. She's really good at tracking down that information. She's really good at taking what we do and making sure that it gets translated so that everyone else understands it. We see the magic. We're in the room every day. That's great. We're in the field with the kids. It's all great, and we have a lot of ways to showcase that. But we also have all these boxes that get checked so that all the colleges can look and say, okay, we agree, and now we're excited about your story too. So that's really important to us. That's something that we value.
I shared the college handbook too in the parent square.
Great,
It has
the
kind of
college
the
handbook, yeah.
calendar of if your kid's a 9th grader, what she'll be doing with your kid and you, as well as what you guys can be doing internally, and goes all the way through 12th grade. So check it out if you haven't had a chance.
Awesome. Yeah, another big component. We do that with all 4 grade levels, it's not like you start meeting with the college counselor right before you're filling out your application. We have small size, and we want to take advantage of that and have a lot of time with Katie, a lot of preparation, so the kids can really go through that process completely. We have other metrics. We have had students succeeding. ACT is one example, so we've got a chart up here that shows you a sort of comparison of T-scores versus national averages. And overall our students have done really well. So as we get older students, we're starting to grow these metrics so that we can share these things. It's really important. Again, this is all validation, right? These are all saying that all that awesome stuff is still part of these things that kids are doing nationally. This is everybody takes the same test. You take the same ACT, you take the same SAT. So that gives that apples to apples kind of comparison too. So that stuff is still matters. We don't focus on the testing, but we believe in our program, and our program in turn is resulting in those test scores. So we've seen that work. This is something that we wanted to share and help clarify. I think one thing that we really could do a better job this year is just clarifying the translation between some of the number mastery scores and the letter grades. On the transcripts, we print letter grades. That's what colleges want. They actually go in and calculate their own GPAs. Schools submit GPAs. Katie has explained this, to me, because I needed to understand this. I went to a high school, and when I remember in school and had this really weird GPA, and I was like, this makes no sense. But what Katie has explained to me is the colleges, they choose which courses they want to take. They take the letter grades. They just generate a GPA based on a 4.0 scale. So the transcript, just letter grades. That's what we send. We choose to use the mastery system. That's why we're using the numbers. We want students thinking about learning targets and outcomes. We don't want them thinking about this test that's in front of them. We want them thinking about the targets that are aligned to the test. What are the things that I'm supposed to learn in taking this assessment or doing this project? And so we have a mastery score, and we have some of the same targets that we use in both the 9-10 grade band and the 11-12. That's why there's 2 sets of marks there, because you might have the same target, but you're expected to work in a more advanced level as an older student. So that's the difference there. But we want to be more transparent with the students too in passing these on. We're just, it's a little bit of a hesitation, right? I know that I grew up strictly in the letter grade world, and these things have their own connotation and their own older sort of meanings, right? I mean, a C is average. It doesn't seem very, that, it doesn't translate anymore. That letter grading system has kind of moved forward. I think we all sort of sense that, right? That, so we accept that. We know we have to submit the letter grades for the colleges. We want to live in a sort of mastery realm with kids. And we also want to be transparent about what's going on in the transcript. So we want to work on this clarity, and we want to keep getting the questions from you about this so that we can help make it more clear and help explain how it gets translated. We also want to do a better job of getting this information to you. We definitely, we are working on an app that we hope to be done earlier this year to share the grades. It is cranking along. I fully expect that we can use it second semester. It was one of those things that we were working on earlier. We didn't have everything we needed for it, and that's what happened. We want to be able to share grades with you with regularity. We want it to be easy for you to access grades. We're not trying to hide grades from you. It's just a logistical mechanism, right? How can we get the grades stored in a place where the teachers can input and you can access? And that's what the app will do for us. We didn't want to let go of mastery scores just to show you grades. So the options that we had initially just for showing things didn't work with our mastery scale, and that was one of the challenges there. So we're building something that will attach to Google Classroom so that we can use the mastery grading scale. We value that. We didn't want to just drop that, but we also understand that you want to see grades with regularity and clarity. And so that's the goal. That's where we are, and I expect that will be happening start of second semester, and so more information to come on the specifics there. But yeah, we want all that stuff at your fingertips so that you can keep track of your students, because you care. They're your kids, we care. We see their grades, we have a better sense, you should be able to see them too, so that you feel comfortable like we feel comfortable.
Nate, will you just speak a little bit to why we want to do mastery teaching and like the revision process and what's entailed in that, and I think that would help us understand why we want to be there.
Yeah, you know, we have a full revision process right up until the end of the semester. We're working towards the end of a target, right? We want to say that we are masters of the learning targets. And we accept that the first time you try and do anything, you're not supposed to be at the end already. You're not supposed to be an expert. We do, you know, that doesn't mean that the grades all start off really low and climb to high. We could do that. That is one way to consider mastery. It tends to make people feel very anxious about the position where students are. It's sort of harder to feel. So what we do is we take a long-term goal and we break it up into some smaller parts. And so each of those small parts along the way can get this sort of mastery score. You can sort of master this component of your long-term target. And then ultimately those things sort of average towards this growth over the year. I know that sometimes is a little challenging, right? Because if you really are just working towards the end, and then when we tell you where you are in the quarter, it's not very high, right? Because we're not at the end yet. So we try and segment and hit it at different points so that we can show you that you're doing well where you're supposed to be right now. But ultimately, you're working on that continuum, and we want you, you know, I'm saying we want the students, right, to have that opportunity to grow as much as they can. We have obviously limitations. The semester must end. We must have an end date. Things must be due at some point. But we do want to give students an opportunity to show that mastery, to continue to grow. We don't want to say that, here's your score, so please stop trying to learn that thing. That seems like the wrong message to send, right? So our message is, okay, well, you're doing pretty well, but you're not there yet. But please send me the next revision. Let's get some feedback. Let's talk about this. Let's keep going. That's the idea. That's why we're encouraging that. That's why we really believe strongly in using the mastery-based grading and just practices and learning. Okay, so thank you. If you have additional questions or some Post-its too, I'd love for you can just write things down. You know, we call it a parking lot. Ask the questions, and then we'll get that information back out to you too if you have like some specifics about your student or classes. Next up, we have Eric, who's going to tell us about athletics. You've been waiting for
How's everybody doing?
Good.
I was gonna brag on Logan real quick, but he left, so maybe I won't.
His parents are still here.
He's an expert in education. If you look up Logan LaPlante, and there's a TED Talk that comes up called Hack Education. It has 10 million views. So the kid in all black that was talking up here is definitely a strong expert and a smart kid. So, which always surprises me every time I look at his outfit. But he's in design. All right, I digress. So the point of this slide is just to let you know that we have high school athletics, right? I think we haven't been at the forefront because we've been a growing high school and we're split. We have people in Incline, Truckee, North Lake. A lot of these programs have grown. I'm looking around the room like Cherie and the Olsons and the Barretts. Like we're lacrosse, biathlon, track and field, cross country, mountain biking. So it's parents that have driven these programs and said, hey, I really want, like Craig's like, Eric, we need a mountain bike team. So we started that. And then all of a sudden this regulatory league came through and said, hey, we're starting Nevada mountain biking. Everybody should do it. So we're putting that out and it's happening. KJ kicking me in the rear to get downhill skiing going. The Kennedy twins just graduated, awesome skiers. Her son, Jeff Miller, won slalom gold last year. So we do have these athletics. We're cleaning up the brand new website that looks great. And I'm gonna do a better job of letting you know like what's coming up in advance of and how the entire school year looks. Don't worry, I'm not gonna talk as long as Logan. So hopefully, just show him this tape, Greg. So winter athletics, biathlon team, we have 34 student athletes from 4th to 11th grade.
Oh, that's so awesome.
6 of those athletes are kids that have left T but still want to be a part of the biathlon team. We train at Auburn Ski Club with Olympians. You're shooting 22 rifles. It's about gun education and safety. Skate skiing as well, the hardest sport to do in the winter in terms of endurance. So that's a giant team, and certainly Melanie and I and Mara and everybody are working on logistics, how to get 34 kids from all over the place to these different resorts. And but that's exciting. To have a team like that is exciting. Downhill ski team, we're taking registrations right now. We have Jeff, we have Caroline Sandberg, potentially the Smith brothers. So that's something that happens Mondays. You would train on your own. So if your son or daughter's into not free skiing, I know Miss Jansen's been kicking me for a lot of programs, and that's great. Like, I want to hear more from what you all want, because in the past, even if we don't have a program, I've been around and annoyed people long enough in Tahoe to know who to hook people up with. So like Brody Swan, she was into snowboarding and she wanted a great coach, and I happened to know one and linked her up, and she had this really fun experience. It wasn't a school sport, but it was like, hey, here's this person that can maybe help, or James in climbing or something like that. I'm not taking credit for that, but I would if
You would if you could.
y'all didn't show up. Y'all didn't show up. So the spring is TNT lacrosse. It says spring athletics. Last year we were in a gym for the entire season. So we were getting home at 10 o'clock at night, practice at Truckee High School. That's a collaborative team. So what that means is North Tahoe, Incline. We had a goalie and a midfielder driving up from South Lake, Tahoe. And last winter,
That's right.
Yes.
with the West Shore closed.
Yes.
They were driving up.
And they need it every time.
Every time.
They're awesome.
It was insane. So it's a collaborative team. We play a bunch of teams in Reno. So a great sport to try if you're not, I started in 9th grade, had a lot of success. So I believe that you can start that sport early or late and have success. And in the spring we'll have, depending on the winter, developmental mountain biking team. So Craig will be, way ahead of us on the trail. Out on the trails.
I just want to interrupt for a second.
Yeah.
After you look up Logan, then look up Eric Martin.
Yeah.
But don't watch the video.
Don't watch the box. Don't watch Box Across though.
I got it all out. There's a developmental tennis team too. We had that in the fall with Martis Camp. So we're trying to partner with Martis, and not trying to partner, but we did partner with their awesome pro, Andy, and he trained our tennis players. There's probably 12 of them for a month and a half, 2 months. The reason these teams are important is because, and that can happen in the spring again if the winter is a normal winter, we'll see. I want snow, but there's this thing called the NIAA, and that's like where Nate kind of comes in. We've struggled with some traditional sports like cross country running, where we're actually members of a Northern California Federation League. I won't bore you with all the details, but it meant that we're driving to Chico for cross country races.
Right.
That
I didn't know
doesn't
it was
work.
far away.
It's hard enough to drive and watch as a coach. So there's we can apply. We can now have there's an easier path to be in this Nevada Athletic Conference, which everybody in Tahoe is grandfathered into. Every school's grandfathered into that's an older school. We're obviously pretty new, so this adds like these teams, like these Devo teams, like fall tennis, winter basketball. We can get a basketball team now. We have a league to compete in. We need to prove that we can field teams like this in order to become full-fledged members, out-of-state members. The whole thing is we're a California school right on the border, so that was kind of the issue, and also our size. You have to be able to fulfill the schedule. So point is, we need kids, we need athletes. There's options here. Email me with questions, email me with ideas, like everybody has done that have gotten a lot of these sports going as parents. Just saying, hey, my kid's into this, let's make it happen. So that's it. Thanks.
Okay, nice to see you all. Thanks all for coming. I've met a number of you and it's been great. New faces, which is really cool. So thanks for coming out so we can start putting some names to faces. My name is Laura and I am new this year as a student support teacher. So I cover kids from grade 7 all the way up to grade 12. And basically the sort of purpose of my role is to just add an extra sort of level of academic support for all of our kids. So we're aware, like all of us in this room, all of our kids are unique and individual, which means the way that they access information and the way that they learn is unique and individual as well. So we embrace that. As any sort of challenges flag up, we take sort of a collaborative approach to solving that problem or providing supports. So we involve people like the student first and foremost to find out how they're feeling. You guys are such a resource, you know your kids better than anybody, so your feedback and your insight is really, really helpful in helping us understand the whole kid. Obviously, as a teaching staff, we work together, we meet a lot, we collaborate, and we come up with plans that are goal-driven and really, really individual so that all of our kids can access learning in whatever way makes sense to them. Some of the examples of the types of support that we offer, I am available, I have a really flexible schedule, which is amazing, so I'm available to sort of push into classes just to offer like a little bit more of a dynamic approach if kids need a little bit more one-on-one. One-on-one sessions out of the class is an option as well if some students need just a little bit of maybe background refresher or a little bit of skills practice. We're fortunate to have workshop time embedded into our schedule, as well as after school time 4 days a week. So I work a lot with small groups and with individual students in those times. We work a lot on time management and assignment organization and planning, and oftentimes that's kind of all students need, and they'll be sort of maybe struggling along and sort of anxious along, and as soon as we just put a plan in place, they feel a lot more confident, they know how to do it, and they can just sort of go forward on their own. I do a lot of working with our incredible teaching staff as well to just make sure that we are differentiating for all of the different levels, all of the different personalities, all of the different learning styles in our classrooms as well. As I said, your feedback is so valuable in understanding the kids that are in front of us, so any concerns you have about your child or anything that's going on, please just email me and we can move forward with plans if that's necessary. Okay, you go on and to our next page here. Okay. We are working right now on what our Fridays look like going forward into second semester. So we'd really like to take advantage of that sort of flexible schedule again in getting our kids out into the community as much as possible. And we're looking at doing that in sort of like a rotating schedule that kind of touches in with the 3 pillars of T, which of course are academics, character, and adventure. So on sort of a rotating schedule, we're looking at providing authentic community experiences for students that really sort of cater to the development of those 3 components. So to give you sort of more of a concrete idea of what we're talking about academics, that's where we really look at finding the experts in our community who can really speak to our kids on either core content that's happening in classes or looking more broadly at the expedition content, sort of going out and finding those people. So examples for next term, Mara mentioned the juniors and seniors are looking at voting and youth voting and where that's happening. We're already making contact with voter registration groups in Reno and in this area so that we can get out and talk to experts and sort of supplement our academics through that. The adventure, I mean, we just have to look into our backyard. Basically, we're in such an incredible part of the world where adventure sort of just happens and it's just at our fingertips. So we're looking at really pushing into that. Eric's obviously a huge resource and he mentioned some options there. So taking advantage of winter sports, getting our kids out and active. And then the last one is character development. So that's where we get out and we give back to the community. So different service opportunities in the community, so looking at food banks, looking at, Squaw Valley is a really cool disabled ski program. We'd love to get in and develop some empathy and give back in that sort of context. Also in-house, we'd like to open up more opportunities for our older students to act as mentors to all of our younger students and really build community and build that sort of sense of leadership right here at school. So.
Yeah, and I think when Laura and I sat down to talk about this, it's so hard to keep pillars separate. It's like the mosaic of academics and adventure and character, because we do adventure not just to experience the nature that is around us, it's to teach the character and to do the crew building and to learn how to work with others. So it's really hard to piecemeal it out together. So we're trying to create structures. We're trying to take feedback from all of you as well as the kids to make the Fridays meaningful while also being able to utilize all of your experts. We rely heavily on our parent community to get us in touch with people they know. The Barretts got us in touch with the Chronicle so that when our 9th and 10th graders went down, they had an in to spend time at the San Francisco Chronicle for their exhibition, which is an amazing thing. And so anybody you know, any tidbits you have to share, please reach out. I know TAP has sent out a survey to try to collect some of that data for us as well. But I think every time I talk to kids about what they want to do and they're like, I need to talk to somebody in the shoe design, I need to talk to somebody here, and it's like, great, somebody knows somebody. We have a pretty wide-reaching community, so thanks for continuing to share your expertise as well as those around you. Do you guys have any questions before we take a sweet tour of our new building that any of us here can answer?
I guess one comment, just I really appreciate going through the grades and how the system's working, so thank you for the clarification. And I'm hoping that, I'm assuming you're making it even clearer to our kids, right? Because I want them to have the accountability to understand how they're being graded, to understand what they're being held accountable for. And
that's part of the clarification too, and we're gonna sort of re-highlight those things, especially, start of a new semester, you get the opportunity, and at the end of the semester now. So we're trying to, share, and probably we'll even start making that direct correlation between the mastery scores and the letter grades, even on the rubrics, so that kids can.
I know it'll shock you that Luke didn't get it the first time. But
No,
he was
I get it. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's something that cannot be sort of articulated and clarified enough, and we're getting that message, and so we want to continue to share that with you and with the kids, and over and over.
Thank you.
And having this new app that we're working with the developer on is really going to help. It's going to help you all, but it's really going to help our students be able to know exactly where they stand. It's something that Google Classroom doesn't do for us, and we were eager to use Google Classroom to make it user-friendly for the students and the teachers, and to be able to personalize it. But it doesn't give you the grade snapshot. It gives 0 to parents, and it gives very little to students, and so that's been a struggle that we're trying to rectify for sure, and then also continuing to have those conversations where we go through the rubric that we're grading kids on before they even get the assignment, so that they can start learning what that looks like. So we've heard that feedback, continue to give it, and we're trying to create solutions to some tech issues as well as to clarity in the classroom.
Katie Watts is an awesome resource too when you're looking at the end game for the college, because that's what a lot of us are concerned about. It's like, how does it translate into the admissions process, right? So
We went this year to the college day, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
That's
really
great.
recommend that for anybody who hasn't yet, It's only 9th grade, gets you thinking, going down the path.
And she wanted to share too that with the 9th and 10th grade families who she hasn't had contact with as much yet this year, she's planning on doing something in January with all of you, so stay tuned. She's going to reach out. She lives in Sacramento now, so it takes a little bit of coordination to do evening events, but she is planning on reaching out now that we have our seniors have all applied to college. Yay! She's been meeting with the juniors this month and in the end of November, and now she's going to move to the 9th and 10th graders so that you'll get some contact with her as well. And just to clarify, we do year-long grades at T because we have year-long courses. And so these grades that your kids are probably really stressed about, we have a hard deadline, like Nate said, about the semester for late work and revisions because we're moving forward in content and we don't want kids left behind in the process. But that grade that you're going to get, I think on December 22nd, is a progress report. It doesn't go on their transcript. It continues to build until the end of the semester or the end of the school year, and that's what goes on their transcript. I did share out in Parent Square a mock transcript of what our transcripts look like, so you can have an idea. Really, they look just like everyone else's transcript, except for we don't rank kids by their achievements because we think that's a little bit gross. But we want to celebrate our kids and all of their accomplishments, especially when you have 5 kids and you rank them on a number of 1 through 5. It feels kind of weird.
That's a great point. Thanks for the transcript is a single letter grade per course. So, you know, that the average of those things continues even when the work for the semester is due. There's a whole new semester worth of work that will average it. So,
So maybe I'm more stressed about the semester grade than my son.
Karen? It goes both ways.
Goes either
Some
way.
students
We were
really
working here
stressed,
till like 7:45 the other night doing
Yeah, it
makeup
goes
work.
both
So. Any other questions? Feel free to reach out to any of us too. Nate is an amazing resource in our academic program and is constantly doing professional development with our entire teaching team, myself included. And he also has like the big picture eyes on making sure we're checking all of those boxes on the 4-year sequence of our curriculum. Melanie is obviously our goddess of all things procedural and faculty and everything like that, so please reach out if you have any questions. And then most of you have already taken advantage of me, and so please continue to do that. I'm here most hours and easily available to talk about your kid, to talk about any of the, I kind of like live in the gray area between their worlds too, so we want to meet your kids' needs, and so that means we need to communicate as well, so thank you for being an active contributor to that. Do we feel like we can better explain how T is preparing your kid for life after high school? Have we gotten closer there? Yes? And do you feel like you have a better understanding of like the 4-year curriculum we have, the courses we offer, and how that's checking those academic boxes that we need to check? Excellent. Would you like to brave the cold weather and check out the new building with us?
Sure.
We're probably going to drive. Emergency
You're gonna drive. Yeah, you can drive down too if you want. If you're gonna be that person.